On today's episode, I'll be telling you how I achieved this. That's the back fade. You understand? You see how clean it is. There's a process. If you are interested and would like to learn, stay and watch the video. You understand? So let's go. The first thing I do is I create my first guideline using my trimmer, the WMAC trimmer. It's not so harsh. That's why I love it. That's why I use it to create all my guidelines, because it does not create a harsh line. Now moving on, what I do is I try not to also press the clipper, because I'm sure this clipper has the ability to create a harsh guideline too. Notice how I made sure the guideline is very straight. I kept on brushing down to make sure there is no remaining hair that will make the guideline not to look straight. You understand? So let's go. So the next thing I did is, with my lever pushed back completely, I created the second guideline, and while at it, I made sure not to apply any pressure. You understand? And I also followed the first guideline so as to make sure that everything goes in unity. That's the whole point of fading, actually, making sure everything goes or looks good together. While at it, make sure to always brush the hair. Now, thirdly, I used my one guard with the lever fully open to clean out the second guideline. Notice how it's a flick motion, no pressure applied. Now, the next thing to do is I use my 1.5 guard to flick out the remaining bulk of the hair. You see how I'm stretching the skin, not the hair now. I'm stretching the skin so as to enable me cut out any hair I do not want, to make sure that I cut it out professionally. Make sure I cut it out evenly so that the fade will go in unity. Make sure you are working with unity. Do not do things disorganized, because that's like the first way to mess up your fades. You understand? So make sure that the line you create, you follow it to the latter. And again, one trick I always use is I make sure to not fade. Make sure to not start my fading with the lever fully closed. I make sure my lever is open. So on this side, I was using my number 2 guard to debulk. You understand? I use it to debulk the hair. This is also a technique in fading. You should also look it up. Notice how I flick and I do not apply too much pressure on the hair. Notice the flick motion. Notice the movement of my hands. And notice how I always use the brush. Now, here I'm using my number 3 guard to debulk. Mind you, all you need for fading is 0.1 guard, your 1 guard, your 1.5 guard, and your 2 guard. The rest is for debulking. Keep that at the back of your mind. The rest is for debulking. Now here I'm also using the flick technique. While at it, I'm now using the comb and not the brush, because we are going up now. So we need to use the comb, not the brush, to see clearly what we are doing. Now I need to speed up the video here just so it's not so long, but then you get the whole idea of what I'm trying to say. Now I went back to my number 1 guard, but this time around I'm using a thicker and a different number 1 guard with the lever fully closed. Here I am targeting the second guideline I created using the number 1 guard with the lever open. You understand? If you do not, kindly go back to watch again, then you understand what I'm trying to say. Notice how I'm trying to not apply too much pressure on the line. Rather, I'm trying to flick, because the point of fading now is to make it blurry, not to create another line. You understand? So I made sure not to apply much pressure. Now I'm using the open lever and then going up a notch. You see what I'm trying to do? You see the difference now? You see how the lower part of the fade is beginning to take shape. But then what's happening is we are creating another line at the top, which I'm going to show you how to clean out eventually. Always stretch the skin. That helps your fading technique. Now I went back to my smaller 1 guard. The lever closed now to clean out that line that was created initially. Here I was applying a bit more pressure because I needed to clean it out completely. but then I was doing it in a way that I did not hurt my client, so you should take note of that too. I was also conscious of not going too high. Now if you take a good look, you'd see how our fade is beginning to take shape, how it's beginning to look a little bit better than it was. And notice how once I reach where there's too much hair, I flick, but where there's no hair, I press on. This is like the boring part of fading. This is the most annoying part, but then it is the most creative part for me, and I love to do it because it brings out the fade clearly for me. That's why I like to take my time. Here's what we call detailing. This is how I use the side of the blade to take out any dark spots. Detailing is an art on its own. I'm sure I'd have to drop more videos about that, but detailing is an art on its own. Now back to the clipper itself with no guard on. Now with the lever fully open, I want to start picking out every strand of hair that is not supposed to be on the head. Notice how I'm using the side of the clipper, not the whole body. Notice how gentle and slowly I cut. And notice that there's a line I do not cross. There's a line I do not cross while at this. Always brush it down. Now here I pushed the lever to 1/3 of the blade. That's like the middle. Now I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fade out the first and the second guideline created. The first one was created using my trimmer, and then the second one was created using the clipper with lever fully open. So once you put it in the middle, you clear out both, but be careful not to go up so as not to create another new line again. That will take your fade higher, and we do not need that. Now you see how everything is beginning to make more sense. Now I went down to my 0.1 guard to do a little bit more detailing. Notice how I use the sides and not the complete clipper, or blade rather. To me, this is like the fun part of fading, because if you lose it here, you've lost everything. Everything you've done from the beginning down to this point is all total time. So for me, this is like the most interesting part. When it comes to the creative parts of fading, I don't think there's a particular tutorial that will really help you on that. Maybe the tutorial will just point you to the right direction, but then the creativity lies in your head. The picture lies in your head. Like everything you want to see actualize or visualize is in your head. So all you need to do is the techniques and then apply it based on your own understanding. Now I need to speed up this part so the video is not so long. Now the next thing I did is I went back to my 1.5 guard with the lever open, because I need to clear out that line, but then I need to do it in a subtle manner. I need to do it in a way that I do not create another line. Ideally, I should go, or I'm supposed to go in with the lever fully closed, but there's a reason why. This is fading, and I do not like to rush my fading. I like to take it step by step. So after this, I would close the lever and then take out that line you are seeing, or reduce the visibility to some extent. This is a part where you need to be careful because you are almost done. So the slightest mistake can mess up everything you've done from the beginning down to this point. I need to speed up a little bit. So basically, this is the end of it all. I'm sure you appreciate the need to follow due process to achieve this result. You understand? If you're not following, kindly follow, turn on the notification, and then I'm sure you likely see a lot more of videos like this. I remain yours truly, Certified Fit. Stay safe out there. Peace.